Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Daily Debate. My name is Ahmed Nader and today we'll be focusing on the latest developments in the field of energy in general here in Egypt, in exploration, excavation, importing and exporting energy in Egypt under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, as we will be having a number of top stories at the beginning of the episode, shedding more light on the presidential activities of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, but in the field of development and improvement in infrastructure in different parts of Egypt, and more specifically in different parts of Cairo, as well as the unwavering support from Egypt to the Palestinian cause. We will be starting straight away with the number one top story for tonight, as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi inspected on Sunday the Haggana slum area east of Cairo undergoing development and renovation. The president said that visiting such areas makes officials better understand the citizens' real problem on the ground than simply speak about it. President al-Sisi said that the government has had to stop new slums from evolving and look for a solution to the current ones. He also stated that the rental value of the apartments in such areas should be equal to the installments of the new houses that the residents will relocate to in the future. On the other hand, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli commented, saying that the government was previously working on removing the unsafe areas, but now it is working on the unplanned ones, which are higher in cost. The president requested that the government expands and revamps the roads nearby to facilitate the life of the citizens. As we can see the footage of the inspection tour of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Sunday. We will be shedding more light as well on the presidential activities of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Friday in a different part of Cairo, as President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi had inspected the progress on the integrated transport center project located north of the Suez Road intersection with the ring road opposite of the Cairo International Airport, and we'll be having more information about that inspection visit in the upcoming report.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi inspected on Friday the integrated transport center project, which aims to reduce traffic congestion inside the capital. The project is located north of the Suez Road intersection with the ring road and opposite to Cairo International Airport. The 300-Feden center includes an international bus station, a transport terminal between governorates, a small administrative capital complex, recreational areas and restaurants, a hotel, and workshops of Cairo Metro's fourth line. The project's geographical location is characterized by being in the center of the link of access connecting main roads nationwide, with its proximity to Cairo Airport, allowing for the facilitated mobility of travelers domestically and internationally. It will also help lower traffic congestion inside the capital, ease and save transport time, as well as reduce fuel consumption rates while protecting the environment. President al-Sisi ordered that the center includes all state-of-art services with a large occupational capacity to complete the development implemented in nearby road networks in order to accommodate traffic flow from and to the center. The president also inspected development projects of eastern Cairo's roads and axes, including those connecting Nasr City with the Suez Road and Ring Road, as well as roads and bridges in the area.
The inspection tour of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Friday, we did see more information about that in the past report as we shed more light on the inspection visits made by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Sunday. Switching to the number two top story for tonight, and it comes from the support always given by Egypt to the Palestinian cause. As Egypt has long been a staunch supporter to the Palestinian cause, Cairo advocates that the establishment of a Palestinian state in the West Bank and Gaza, with East Jerusalem as its capital, is the only way to reach a fair solution to the Palestinian crisis. Many initiatives were proposed by Egypt over the past years as the country hosted officials from the Palestinian factions and mediated reconciliation efforts. And to be shedding more light on those statements, I am honored to be having with me over the phone Dr. Muhammad Naguib Abu Zaid, the professor at the American University in Cairo. Dr. Muhammad, thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
Thank you for inviting me.
Anytime. How do you see the ongoing support given by Egypt to the Palestinian cause?
Well, I have to say at the beginning, and I second your very nice introduction.
Thank you.
Egypt has been consistently supporting the Palestinians. This is not for 1 year or 2 years or 1 month. It's been for decades.
Yes.
And I say consistency because Egypt has always made and made it clear to the world, not just to ourselves, that the Palestinian cause is in the heart of the Arab world, the Muslim world, and actually is the key issue to settle down this whole area and to reach some kind of good and sustainable peace. As you alluded in your nice introduction and in the report, it has been happening on various levels. On top of that, the presidential level. And in here, I would like to remind the viewers that the president has spoken very much and truly eloquently and truly clearly for example, in the summit, in the General Assembly of the United Nations, each time, not only one time, in the summit with the European partners, with the East, with the West, and definitely with the United States. So Egypt has been very consistent in that, and the president has made this very clear. I will add to that one other thing is that on the level of foreign ministers or state secretaries, you remember, and the viewers remember, not long ago, weeks ago, our foreign minister in his meetings, also the head of the Egyptian intelligence was meeting and visiting the various parties and the different groups of the Palestinians in an attempt, inshallah, successful attempt to have a solidified and unified stand for Palestinians to push their cause and their case, which is the whole Arab world, to a better stage and to progress in the soon future.
Egypt called for a unified resolution towards the Palestinian cause, a binding resolution. How do you see the discussions going on now, and what kind of resolution is under discussion now?
Well, a very good question. I would like to, again, to highlight the fact that as we speak, in the last few weeks, there has been a new American administration. And the new American administration had gave very positive and encouraging statements about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, and the sincere, that's what came in President Biden's speech and talk, support the two-state solution and having this as the sole way of resolving this conflict.
Yes.
As per your very nice question again, this talks, perhaps the prime, let's say, target of which is to get the different points of view put on the table. The excuse that has been given for several years, if not decades,
yes,
that the Palestinians themselves don't have one voice or one unified stand. This is not true, because Egypt is working on resolving that and having this kind of unified voice. And again, the solution of the state, of course, definitely the Palestinian state, and having East Jerusalem as the capital is the stand of Egypt, and again, Egypt has been consistent on that. So I don't think there is anything that Egypt is changing over the past few years and decades when it comes to that. It's a consistent point of view. And again, I have to say that Egypt is perhaps, I don't know if you say the sole country, but the main country that's always bringing the Palestinian case and cause in the front burner of the whole world, because the other conflicts, and for example, and other international kind of distraction, if I may use this word, because of and rightly so, because of the COVID-19 and because of the slowdown of the economy and because of other regional conflicts. This does not distract Egypt or make Egypt hesitant for a moment to push the Palestinian cause further and to strengthen that worldwide.
As we did see on the screen previously, the footage of previous meetings between President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, President Mahmoud Abbas of Palestine from the archive of the Egyptian Radio and Television Union and Nile TV International. How do you see those constant efforts under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and with Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry to be going in the path of a two-state solution? How do you see the developments in this regard?
Of course, I have seen this nice report that you presented, and I recall this visit, which I think was last December, so it wasn't long ago. And what's to be remembered and noted in this visit is one of so many visits that have been taking place. And again, the president allocates a lot of time and intense attention for this kind of meetings. And it's not like one meeting that's not followed by other meetings. It's followed by various level meetings by ministerial level and other high officials in Egypt who would meet with counterparts in Palestine. Also, in the various meetings, speaking of Africa, and there was the African summit just the past few days, you would recall, as an example, I'm using that as an example, when Egypt was in the presidential seat of Africa 2 years ago, it was almost always the number one topic that the president will bring to Africa. So about the Palestinian cause. So what I'm saying here is that Egypt is using all its context, all its diplomacy, all its power with allies, with friends, to make the whole world more alert to the Palestinian cause and to try to make it very much in the vivid mind of everyone. And truly, there is not only a political part of it, there is a humanitarian part of it that deserves the attention of the world with respect to support, to aid, to medication, to opening the gates and the passage of the Palestinians, especially in tough times and so on. So it's a multi-facet and multi-dimensional support that Egypt has never been hesitant to provide to the Palestinian brothers and sisters and to the Palestinian state that's soon to become, inshallah, for the Arab world and for the whole world.
Yes, Doctor, you've mentioned that there is a new administration in the United States under President Joe Biden, and the President of the United States previously said that some decisions would be reversed from the previous administration under Donald Trump. Regarding specifically the Palestinian cause, do you expect any decisions to be reversed regarding the cause?
This question has been raised actually even by the heart of the media in the U.S., and I was following that on several channels. My own guess, and I will use the word guess here, that there will be a stronger grip and pressure on Israel for the immediate stop of the widespread of the settlement.
Yes.
Reversing and going back, I hope that would take place. The first thing that would come to my own mind when it comes to reversing is the shift and transfer of the embassy, the American embassy to Jerusalem. But I don't think that will take place because several other nations have followed the U.S. in that. regrettably so, but none of the major powers, to the best of my knowledge, have followed suit and come to that. What we are looking for here really is not to reverse decisions as much as to have a stronger, sincere stance. And if President Biden, and I hope this will be the case, is sincere as he showed about that, and that the new states, the coexistence of the two states, side by side, in peace, in cooperation, in Jerusalem as a capital for East Jerusalem for the Palestinians, that would be the biggest achievement and the biggest push that could happen to the Palestinian case and to the Arab world. Let's not kid ourselves. We all know that the Palestinian issue and the conflict will remain and has been like that for several decades. The main issue, the main problem or conflict in the whole Middle East, it's impacting the whole world in one way or another, and it will be a key solution to mile down and to slow down any radical forces in the region and worldwide. So I hope that this will take place, and I would like to applaud the president, our president,
yes,
his persistence in this regard.
Yes, and my final question, Doctor, about as you've mentioned, the possible immediate restart of the peace negotiations, the stance of Egypt, the support of Egypt to Palestine, how important is that in the international community?
Well, as I say, I mean, I don't think, and here I'm not speaking only as an Egyptian,
yes,
proud Egyptian, being an Egyptian, but I speak realistically. Egypt is the number. We are not trying to pride ourselves, single out ourselves from the rest of the nations around us, whether in the Arab world, the Muslim world, or in Africa.
Yes.
But Egypt has been the prime and has been the first country that took the initiative of having peace with Israel itself. So together with Egypt's heavyweight existence, population, soft and power, military power, economic influence, political relations, that Egypt has been the one that opened that gate for peace to take place. So there is this kind of support and understanding,
yes,
and empathy from the Western world in particular when Egypt speaks, when Egypt tackles this issue. And I think the Palestinians are relying on that. And when you hear President Abbas himself talks, he talks about Egypt as the one indispensable support that the Palestinians seek, and inshallah it will remain like that. And I hope that this year, 2021, and by the way, I predict that some kind of breakthrough will happen in the year 2021 for the Palestinian-Israel conflict, and I hope that,
yes,
inshallah, by the end of this year, if not before, we'll have some good news.
Yes, hopefully as soon as possible. Dr. Mohammed Naguib Abu Zaid, the professor at the American University in Cairo, thank you very much for being with us tonight over the phone on the Daily Debate. We'll be switching to the main topic of tonight's episode, the recent exploration and achievements in the Western Desert in terms of the energy sector by the Italian company Eni. We'll be having more information about the main topic of the Daily Debate for tonight in the upcoming report.
Egypt has recently announced a new oil discovery in the Western Desert. The discovery lies in Meliha concession. Eni, which is leading exploration work there, said that the discovery was achieved through the Arcadia 9 well, drilled on the Arcadia South structure, which is located 1.5 kilometers south of the main Arcadia field already in production. According to the announcement, the well encountered 85 feet of oil column in the Cretaceous sandstorm of Alam el-Buwaib 3G formation. The well has been drilled close to the existing production facilities and is already tied in production with a stabilized rate of 5,500 barrels of oil per day. It added that two development wells, Arcadia 10 and Arcadia 11, have been drilled back to back following the discovery. The new discovery adds 10,000 barrels of oil per day to Eni's gross production in the western desert of Egypt. Eni's successful implementation of its infrastructure-led exploration strategy in the western desert through AGIBA, a joint venture between Eni and Egyptian Petroleum Corporation, allows a quick valorization of these new resources. Eni, through its subsidiary LIOC, holds a 38% of interest in the Meleha concession, while Lukoil holds a 12% and EGPC a 50% interest. Eni has been present in Egypt since 1954, where it is the country's main producer. Eni's current equity hydrocarbon production is around 320,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day.
To be shedding more light on the main topic of the daily debate for tonight, the recent achievements and discoveries at Meleha concession in terms of the development of the field of energy in Egypt in general. I'm honored to be having with me on the daily debate for tonight Dr. Salah Hafez, the former deputy of the General Petroleum Authority. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
First of all, how do you see the recent achievements in general in Egypt in this field under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in the past 6 or 7 years?
Well, there are two main issues that were introduced to the stagnation of the market in Egypt here. The subsidy, this was an impediment because subsidy, then the government has to provide money for they get the product for more money than they recover it.
Yes.
So this was a main step forward to giving this sector a push. The other thing is paying the debts that the government owned to the operators, because some operators, they come and spend very risky money at the beginning, because exploration is very risky. Because you may drill 8 wells and they're all dry, then you're in a bad shape. But if you make discoveries, you would like to continue making more profit in the country you're active in. So the discovery, like the last discovery, Meleha is a field, and I was working in the Western Desert at the time. It was around 1966, when drilled Meleha, and the oil flow at a rate of 5,000 barrels oil per day. So this area, once you find the first discovery, then you know more about the area. So as you do further work and as the technology develops and as the knowledge of the people, because you're dealing with a very difficult circumstances in the geology of the earth, because it's not a constant thing. So this was, now there are more discoveries in deeper areas, in different geological level. Eni, for instance, the company that is operating, this is the oldest or one of the oldest operating companies. They are active since the 50s.
In Egypt?
In Egypt. They were before Shell, of course, and other major companies, but they are continuously working since then under the name of AGEP, and then IEOC. They developed, so they understand the geology of Egypt. They understand, they have very good records with the government. They accepted the grace period that were introduced for their money to be collected. So they are giving a very positive energy in the market nowadays. And they're the ones that discovered Dhuhr field.
Yes, the Mediterranean.
The Mediterranean.
Yes.
So the main factors is removal of subsidy, so it's more free market, and paying the debts of the foreign operators. And more so, this market, as I said, is very dynamic because it's very much dependent on politics, and the volatility of the price goes up and down all the time. So if the agreement is well conceived and the management of the agreement, they're promptly and timely and dynamic with the changes that keep occurring all the time in the international arena. So all these factors make this sector is more and more successful compared to other places.
Speaking of the foreign operators, how do you see in general Egypt dealing with more credibility now, with even a bigger trust between Egypt, the Egyptian government, and the foreign operators, especially after paying the debts? How do you see this an important factor to be bringing in more investments to Egypt in this field?
There were a period, very difficult period for them, and they have invested a lot of money, and they were looking for further investment. But they will never, those operators will never get the money from outside and develop the discoveries that they make. They have to take their success money
and build on
it. And then they find more and more and more, like some companies. But so they were very patient. They were very frustrated for some time. And now they're relaxed and very active and with very positive energy that helped very much the discoveries that are being made as we read and listen, in the media.
So, Doctor, you've been to the Meliha concession in the Western Desert in the 1960s.
Yes.
What is the difference now between Meliha right now in 2021 and this discovery and the discoveries or the potential discoveries that you were having back then in mind or hoping to have back then in the 1960s? How do you see the difference between the two images?
Amazing. Then I started in 1964,
yes,
and it was a total wilderness. No pipelines, no activities, just tents and few trailers and a lot of minefields. The minefields were also, now they're mostly removed, and we suffered for years from the minefields, especially in the Alamein area and this area. So then it was really wilderness. And no one knew whether oil would be discovered. The first discovery which was made was Alamein discovery. Unfortunately, it was discovered in the long reservoir. It's not the reservoir that is ubiquitous everywhere and you can look for and find more oil. it was a limited reservoir, limited to a certain area. So this delayed a bit discovering more oil.
Yes.
And then now if you go to the Western Desert, you find pipelines, you find camps, you find the infrastructure amazing everywhere in the Western Desert, and mines are mostly removed now, and it's very safe. So with the data, more data, and more discoveries, so they know the geology more, and the technology develops
Yes.
to help finding the undiscovered oil, because usually you find the easy discoveries when you start, the easy ones, the big ones, and that you cannot miss. But the smaller or the thicker or the type of the trap, then you need better technology and more data. So as you go on with exploration processes and investing money and obtaining data with the technology, then you find the discoveries that you would have never discovered up front. So you always increase. That's why they say the reserves of any basin is usually dynamic. You cannot say, okay, this basin, you can make studies, but very conjectural and not really very definitive. So now the Western Desert, it was producing a fraction compared to the Gulf of Suez. The Gulf of Suez fields are larger, and facilities were, it was discovered earlier, you know, in the 50s, and even more onshore, but offshore in the 50s. Then the Gulf of Suez, which was one of the richest basins in the world compared to its size. I think it was number 3 richest basin.
Yes.
So now the production is dropping, and the Western Desert took a prime location in the priorities now because of the size and the many discoveries and the technology and the data and the management of the production sharing agreements in the last few years.
What is the difference between the production sharing agreements right now in Egypt in 2021 and back then, or even a few years ago?
Well, the production sharing agreement, it was introduced in the 50s by someone called Matei from Egypt, or Eni, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
And it was very attractive to countries that cannot take the risk themselves of looking for oil. So it worked very well because the commitments, things were not as expensive as it is now. But after a while, then it ages, they age. But in Egypt here, there were changes that were introduced, and upgrading was introduced, and more training the people they get. So I think we are supposed to be one of the best countries in the world that properly apply and implement the production sharing. The production sharing is someone comes in, takes all the risk, makes commitment to drill and do seismic and all this. If they don't find oil, they walk out. If they find oil, if it's the commercial discovery, then they keep investing, and once they start the first barrel of oil, part of this, they share, they recover the cost over 5 years, 10 or 5 years. So if they discovered the oil, and then the remaining part, which is usually 30 to 70, the 70%, the government takes about 80% of it, or 70%, depending on the difficulty of exploration and the cost of developing and exploring. Like the deep waters is not like onshore.
Yes.
So it works beautifully. You know, there were a lot of debates that this is not fair for the government. It's more than fair, and you have to attract investors to come and use their technology and use their sources of financial investment. So this sector in Egypt is going along very well.
Yeah, speaking of this sector, Egypt has reduced the imports ever since 2016 from diesel and gas from 10 tons per year to 3.5 by the end of 2020, by the end of last year. How do you see the improvement in those numbers?
Well, the discovery of Dhuhr is a real landmark in the history of Egypt. It's a huge discovery, and more importantly, it was discovered in a new reservoir, type reservoir.
Yes.
So this gave hopes that more oil of this size will be discovered, because they were ignored in the past, because they were using the sandstone reservoir. Now they find carbonates. So it gave the discoveries. This discovery offset the deficits in the gas from importing and exporting, and made us net exporter. We were net importer of gas.
Yes.
We are still net importer of liquid hydrocarbons. But this discovery is we use less liquids because of the electricity, energy, and the renewables. We have also diversified the sources of energy, the secondary energy. So we have renewables, we have other wind energy, we have a little bit of coal that we didn't use before, and we have we have more processing of oil. So we export some products from oil. So we're actually moving very positively toward becoming self-sufficient soon, not because we will have more oil, but the efficiency and the optimization of the usage of energy and the diversification of the sources of energy. In the past, it was all power plants were only depending on the fuel oil or the gas oil.
Yes.
Now we have a little bit of gas. We have more gas, so we use in the electricity, and we use less liquid. So we're in the process of becoming either net exporter or at least self-dependent on energy.
Doctor, you've given me a comparison between the image of the Western Desert in this sector of drilling and excavating and discoveries in the 1960s and in 2020. How do you see the difference now between the human factor working on less information back in the 1960s with less technology back in the 1960s, going there all alone with no maybe television, no radio, no mobile phones? Nothing of these applications and those devices were there in the 1960s. How do you live in a desert in the 1960s with nothing and being expected to be having more drilling and having more excavation and having more discoveries in the field of petroleum and in the field of natural gas and drilling?
I admit it was very harsh living conditions, and we used to get a movie once a week, and it used to take me to go on my leave.
Yeah.
I leave 8 o'clock in the morning from the camp, and I reach home in Heliopolis at 12 midnight. It was that difficult. Now, with the plane, you take a helicopter, you take plane to the Alexandria, if it's the Western Desert, or Cairo. So it's much, and the technology is completely different, completely different. But then human resources were very important, because you have to develop a certain feel for it, and certain passion. And passion gives you the energy. So our knowledge, the old timers, were very specific and vibrant.
Yes.
And now maybe they know less about the geology and how the oil is made, but they have the technology to tell them where
You know
to
more
drill.
about the devices.
Yeah,
Yes.
the devices, they use them,
And the
they're
equipment.
freaks, really, they're freaks. They amaze me, you know. So it was different, and the dynamics was different. And
Was there more patience back then to be expecting of you results?
Yeah, of course.
'Cause there was
I mean,
less
rate of
information?
success, rate of success in exploration in the wildcats, we call them wildcats, the first well drilled in the area. It was 1 in 8, 1 in 10. So, but now it's maybe 1 in 4. And the development
That was
wells,
the possibility back then, to be drilling 10 wells
before you find
for
the
one
discovery.
to be working.
Oh, yes.
And now it's 1 in 4.
Now, approximately 1 in 4.
So it's easier.
Yeah.
It's easier now. It is easier
It's
now.
easier, and data is abundant. Technology has much more resolution than before, and the equipment, you know, they're they're more delicate than in the past, but they're very accurate.
Doctor, you've said that one of the main factors of the success of the petroleum sector in the past years was the government's decisions to be rationalizing the subsidies, or the whole sector of petroleum gained from those decisions regarding subsidizing petroleum for the consumers. What are the other reasons, in your opinion, that made this sector even more successful under Engineer Tariq Al-Mullah?
Well, he listens to the people, because there is upstream and downstream, and Dr. Mullah is Engineer Mullah is the downstreamer, but he acquired the expertise of the upstream, which is exploration and development, very well, and so it's a culture.
Yes.
You know, a culture that you have to understand the culture, you have to understand the dynamics of the culture, and you have to understand, of course, the technology. So he's doing a very good job in coordinating between those factors and developing the sector further ahead.
So how do you see our chances of exporting energy in the near future?
Well, energy, if you're talking about electricity, I think we are now, we export
Yes.
energy. Hydrocarbons, I don't think we will reach this. But it's a good question regarding the gas.
Yes.
Because the gas, we have infrastructure for gas, liquefaction plants and gasification plants and pipelines and all kind of, not a perfect one, but a nucleus to develop the best in this part of the world. So we have started it long time ago, since the 60s or even the 50s, building pipelines, and now it's more complete and better maintained. And if we turn it into a hub, you don't go and say, okay, I would like to make a hub here. It's the time and motion. You have to develop it and accommodate the changes that occur around you. You know, the price of gas, the competition, discoveries here. This market is growing. This market is slowing down. So these dynamics, we have prepared the infrastructure and the laws and regulations to potentially have one of the best hubs in this part of the world. The market is there.
Yes.
European is the largest market after the United States and Canada, of course.
Yes.
And the gas is there. Saudi Arabia, they have lots of gas, but they're not interested to develop it now. If you get with them and have them develop the gas and to come through us and export it through us. Israel now is using our facilities because they cannot afford. Now the cost of a liquefaction plant is something like $10 billion. And we have few trains of liquefaction in Egypt here. So this is the minister is working very diligently to develop and to work along the dynamics that is occurring. We have a very good law for gas for in the downstream. The upstream was introduced. The gas was introduced when I was in charge of petroleum agreements.
Yes.
So things like that are developing very rapidly and very favorably.
Yes, one of the rapid developments that Egypt was chosen to be hosting the East Mediterranean Gas Forum. How do you see this step, or what does it indicate for the Egyptian credibility in this sector?
This is very important. It's very, very important. Well, we have started the exploration and production before any other country in the area, before Saudi Arabia, before. The first well was drilled specially to look for hydrocarbons or oil at that time, was in 1886. And since then, Egypt was ahead of all other countries. We have Egyptian experts everywhere, in the Arab countries and elsewhere. So Egypt was ahead of all our neighbors by far.
Yes.
So this gives credibility for the market. And we manage it well, and we train other generations. So the accountability or the credibility rather of Egypt is very high, and this is why they come and happily come and get into new petroleum agreements and high commitment. And one important factor is the agreement is a law. And you go to arbitration, not the local...
the international.
The international arbitration, because it's financial arbitration, not technical arbitration. Financial arbitration, and they have a law that goes through the procedure of issuing a law that they have this right and this commitment, and so you're implementing each concession agreement is a law. And the problem in Lebanon, you know, the government refused to have the concession agreement as a law issued by the parliament. So this is why, you know, it's very it's not very reliable, and no confidence in that. So this is again one of the very important measures that help companies or encourage companies to come and invest in Egypt.
Yes, and hopefully we will be having more investments and more discoveries and more successes in this sector. Dr. Salah Hafez, the former deputy of the General Petroleum Authority, thank you very much for being with us tonight on the Daily Debate.
You're welcome.
And this brings us to the end of the Daily Debate for tonight. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.